All right. Hi, it's Nat Mundell. We have already, looks like almost 100 people on, and we're just getting started. We're going to give people extra time, but it's great to see everybody. If you've dialed in by phone, and it looks like a lot of you have, I'm going to recommend that you actually dial in or click in from a computer. You'll have a better experience. You'll be able to see my slides, and you'll get a lot more out of it. So if you have the capacity to jump over onto a computer and dial back in, I think you'll get a lot more out of it. Hi, Kalia, welcome. And I also have to find Robert Midas in this list so I can bring him on. Let's see if I can find him in this giant list of people. Oh my God, it's just getting bigger and bigger because I have to bring him on together with me. Wow, so many faces, or not faces, but names. Richard, Rico, hey guys. All right, here's Robert. Let me bring Robert on. Welcome, David. Let's see, Robert, did you get added as a presenter? Yep, you've been added, Robert. Turn on your webcam.
Hi, buddy.
All right, there you are. Hey,
hello,
Robert.
everyone.
Amazing. All right. Well, good. You're on, Robert. So that's good. If you want to, you're welcome to mute yourself. But we're just going to give people probably another 2 to 3 minutes to sign on. It looks like people are still joining us. And again, if you've dialed in by phone and hey Tyler, welcome. Sorry, I'm not seeing everybody's chat. I know a lot of people have sent in chats. But if you've dialed in by phone and you do have a computer nearby, I would recommend that you click in versus dial in because we've got slides up and video, and I think you'll get a lot more out of this. And then if you're interested where everybody's using this chat feature to say hello, hey Joe, there is a button in the top left of your screen. I think it's in the top left of your screen. It's called chat for attendee chat. And you can click over there and you'll be able to see these chats and be able to type in a chat. Everybody can see your chat. Okay, we've decided to keep them live, so keep them polite. Joe found it. Aichin, nice to see you. Robert, wow, everyone. Joe, Tyler, Michael, welcome. Joan, it's been a long time. Joan, Dana, hi. Debbie, David, Rico, Tony, Bob, Barb, excuse me. I'm glad you came over from the Ask a Producer Anything session. All right, I'm going to go back over to the list here. Yep, we still have people signing on, so I'm going to give people just a couple more minutes. Judy and Mark, hi. Willie, Teresa. Sometimes it takes people a little bit extra time to figure out the AnyMeeting app, especially if they're dialing in by phone, so we'll give people just a little extra time and we'll dig in shortly. But yeah, people are really jumping on here. We'll just keep saying hi. Kevin, TK, Joy, Laura, Anna, Sue, welcome. Bob, good to see you. Susan, Litsa, Rachna, so cool. Let's get some, yeah, Desmond from the Eastern Caribbean, Angela. Let's get some where people are dialing in from. That's always fun. So it's always amazing where people find Voyage from. It's all over the world. It's really extraordinary. Dallas, New York City, Minnesota, Columbia, Massachusetts, my hometown, Carolina, Indiana, Australia. There we go. Australia, San Antonio, Walt Disney World, David Starr. Great. This is incredible. It's so amazing. So many people. Danae from Pittsburgh, Oklahoma City, Brooklyn, Bremerton, Huntsville, Wendell. All right, it's 5:05. So I'm going to start, even though people are going to be sort of joining us as we go. So you probably found your way here. You might be someone that's got a story and you've been on our list for quite a while, and you're a client and you've been working with us already. Actually, we have some people on the line here with us who are some of our originals that we're producing, and that's exciting. Or maybe you're an investor and you're wanting to know more about what Robert and I are going to do. Or maybe you're thinking about investing. And the cool thing about Voyage is that all of those sort of curiosities and interests are relevant, and they're also all aligned. And that's what's really neat about our investment offering, is that we're bringing in our clients and our storytellers into ownership and creating a real solid alignment. We'll get into that in just a little bit. And definitely you're going to want to stay on. We're going to open it up to Robert a little towards the end, so stay on with me. So I'm really pleased to introduce you guys when that time comes. And then towards the end, we're going to move into Q&A. So we'll jump over to the chat and we'll just sort of answer popcorn style a bunch of questions that you might have. But we are in a fundraising round that closes on November 15th. Robert is a new addition, not a new addition of the platform. He's actually been with us for about a year, but he's our new head of originals, and he's really brought some oomph and passion to the table. And like I said, some great ideas that are already becoming tactical that we're going to talk about in a little bit. So our vision as a company is sort of marked by this dynamic or indicator. Demand for original programming is up 500% since 2014. And that's not shifted market share from, let's say, the traditional networks or the studios to streaming platforms. It's actually new demand. And that demand is continuing to grow as the streaming platforms grow and fragment, as the cable networks grow and fragment, as studios need more content, as the indie financiers are finding their way and producing more content. It's an extraordinary time to be in the content business. And our vision is to supply that demand with fresh and original stories from outside of the Hollywood system and bring them into Hollywood in a much more direct and efficient, and the key, scalable way. And we do so with our incubator model. So if I'm not going to be able to tech troubleshoot for people individually, I'm sorry, there's just too many people and we've got too much to get through. I'm sorry if you're having tech problems or you can't hear, but we're going to just have to keep going and maybe find your way onto a computer or a phone system and see if you can, if you're on a computer, maybe mute your computer and dial in by phone. You'll be able to have a speaker coming from your phone. So let's talk about what an incubator is. I'm going to attempt to share my screen and show a video. Due to internet connections, this on my end and on your end, it might be a little wonky, but I think you'll get the idea, especially for those of you that have a really strong connection. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen temporarily. Now let me give you guys a warning. If for some reason I pop off, just stay where you are and I will be back on. I've had that happen before. So just stay where you are, even if that kicks you into the waiting room again, and I'll come back on. All right, so I should be showing my screen. Robert, can you thumbs up me if you see my screen? Awesome, thank you. I'm going to play a video which I think clearly illustrates what our incubator is and how it works.
You have a script, book, or idea, and it has potential to be the next big thing. Excitement sets in, but suddenly you hit a wall. Traditional Hollywood is a closed system, and the gatekeepers of that system are agents. They determine who gets in, which means films and TV shows keep getting made the same way, by the same people, over and over again. It's time for Hollywood to evolve. Welcome to Voyage. Here's how it works. Step 1. Skip the middlemen and submit your project to our network of producers who are on the hunt for their next project. Step 2. Make your project awesome by receiving world-class mentoring to help you prepare it for market. Step 3. Become an original. Once your project is ready, gain access to financing from Voyage and our network of production and distribution partners, so your project can get made. Get connected, get educated. Become an original.
All right, so give me a second while I come back on. All right, I'm here. I'm going to stop my screen share and start my slides again. So that's a little bit about the incubator concept. And the coolest thing from my point of view is not that it works, or in addition to it working, is that it's scalable. We have this incredible decentralized network of producers that act as mentors and act as the means by which projects, film and television projects, become ready for market. And it's a really cool concept that allows us to develop projects at scale. And I'll tell you one metric that I think is fascinating. So we develop with our small team of 6. We have a corporate team, and then of course we have this broader reach of producers on the platform. But with our little team of 6, we develop the same volume of film and television projects as the big studios. I ran some numbers and it's almost exactly the same amount, about 500 to 600 projects per year currently, and growing without having to grow our corporate team. So it's a truly outstanding, or a really interesting aspect is the scalability of our concept. And we've proven that it works. We've now produced over 7 movies and television shows. We won an Emmy for one of our projects. We've executed over 200 deals. We're really proud of the metrics. The thing that we're most proud about is that every single one of those stories originated from a storyteller outside of the Hollywood system, without a best-selling book or major publisher, without an agent, and without Steven Spielberg as an uncle. And we're very proud of that. There are some metrics that we've been working on since our first equity crowd raise. They include what we call our successful deals metric. So we have doubled the volume of how many deals we're doing. And when we say a deal, we're referring to there's a project that's come through the door and entered our incubator. We've gotten it to the point where it's market ready, and we've found a buyer for it or a home for it in the Hollywood system. And so we've doubled our success rate. We've grown our community by double as well. So when we first raised money, we had about a community of about 50,000, and we're now capping or moving past 100,000 as we speak. And then the metric that we call producer and profit sharing fees, which we've also more than doubled since our first fundraise, is an indication of the quality of our work and that it's working. Okay, so the company, sort of survives and sustains on these consulting and mentorship programs and fees, but that's just really how we pay the bills. Our ambition and our vision is to grow our success fees, meaning when we sell projects, when we get projects financed and made. And we've been working really hard at making sure any work that we do in the incubator can lead to legitimate, credible, and successful outcomes. So more than doubling producer fees, which is when we get paid for producing movies and shows or selling movies and shows, the more than doubling of that is an indication of that work, and again, that it's working. So we're very excited about those metrics. The metrics that I'm personally most excited about are our cost per lead metrics. So to get people in the door into our incubator, we spend a reasonably sizable amount of money on advertising, technology, and delivery of advertising. And what we've found in the last, it's been about 5 months running now. When I first put these metrics together, it had been about 3 months. We have this approximately 3-year average of a cost per lead, or a cost per storyteller coming in the door, of about $4.50. In the last 5 months, we've cut that in half to just about $2. Now, if you're not into analytics, let me explain what that really means. It means for the same amount of advertising spend, we're doubling the amount of storytellers coming in the door. And when we double the amount of storytellers that come in the door, we fuel the company's growth with revenue. But more importantly, we're creating more and more opportunities for stories to have their chance or have their day in the sun. So that's a very, from a running a business and being hard, really focused on economics and the analytics that drive our revenue and our success, we're really, really excited about that 5-month cost per lead track record. Now, as I mentioned, we're committed to successful outcomes. And everything that we do, from our cultural norms to the work that we do to how we bring people into the incubator through our exhaustive application process, is all aligned towards successful outcomes. And as I said, we've produced some amazing projects, some of which have done very well financially, some of which have gone on to critical acclaim. Like I said, we won an Emmy. And that number, as I'd mentioned earlier, with the successful outcome or successful deals percentage, is growing exponentially. Robert in himself has seen just this increasing flow of projects and increasing flow of quality of projects. So we're very excited. I'll share with you some of the upcoming projects in just a little bit, so make sure to stay with me. But we owe it all to the incubator concept and the producers that really staff that incubator concept. We started with a small group of about 8. We grew to about 25. We spent a little while at about 40, and we're now hovering at about 50 producers on the platform. We've added some extraordinary names. If you haven't seen or been to our site lately, go to voyagemedia.com, click over to the Get Connected tab, and you'll see some of the great new exciting producers that we brought onto the platform. Now, the thing that's cool, back to the scalability construct, these producers cover almost every single aspect inside the industry, ranging from little Oscar-nominated indies like Help, Whale Rider, to Christian audience movies like The Blind Side and Passion of the Christ, cult favorites like Donnie Darko and Memento, half-hour comedies like Mike and Molly and Bleep My Dad Says, one-hour drama like Revenge, reality shows like Extreme Makeover Home Edition and Pitbulls and Parolees. Let's see, documentaries like Valley Uprising, a really incredible sort of breadth and depth within various verticals. And that's what fuels the scalability, and it enables us to be in almost every single market inside the industry, again, without having to have a giant team that's a huge cost center. So I mentioned recent projects. This is a project I wanted to share with you that we produced recently and will be in release shortly. It's called Chance. We filmed it in 2018. We actually produced it alongside one of our producers, John Cry, who ended up directing the movie as well, which is kind of a neat little side story. It stars Matthew Modine from Full Metal Jacket and Stranger Things. I'm going to show you the trailer in just a second, and if you don't know that name, you'll certainly recognize the face. And it's a family sports drama. So I'm going to again share my screen and do a private sneak peek of the trailer. No recording. Just kidding. All right, just one sec. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, that should be shared. Now, if there was syncing issues with the last video, this is going to be worse, but let's try anyway.
Your son seems sensitive. Yeah, he don't handle stress well. When he was a baby, he cried until he turned blue and passed out. He was my little blue baby. Born intense, my kind of guy. You think baseball will help with that? Baseball helps with everything. Chance, I want you to swing like that for the rest of your life. You're a hitter. Dear Lord, I ask your blessing on these boys. Make them as tough on the inside as they look on the outside. Amen. All right, get your glove. Come on, guys. How do you get good at anything in flash baseball? Millions of reps.
Millions of reps.
Chance has to retake the 5th grade. Chance failed 5th grade?
It's a fine line between messing with somebody and hurting them. What was that?
Nobody else even comes close to that.
I'm not talking to anybody else. I'm talking to Chance. It was Colton.
That's actually hilarious. But if I have any questions, I can text you.
Oh, she's pretty. No. Oh, that was all you.
Do not text or come near my son again.
I could ask some questions and try to find out what happened.
Run hard, round the base is a beautiful place that you've always known. Your tears are gone. You're safe now. Run home.
Your son seems sensitive.
Yeah, he don't handle
So just
stress
give me
well.
a sec while I get
When he was a
myself
baby, he cried
organized
till he turned blue
again.
and passed out. He was my little.
All right. So there's a little sneak peek on Chance. It's a tragic true story and very topical in today's day and age about social media bullying. Family sports drama directed by John Cry and starring Matthew Modine. So there's a little sneak peek. All right, so now what does it mean to invest in Voyage? Investing in Voyage actually means owning stock in the company. So we first raised money in 2017. It was the first time we brought in outside investors, and we decided we did not really want to take on big venture capital investors, but rather build our family from within. And so we launched our crowd raise on a SEC regulated platform. I'll share that info in just a bit. But it means you own stock in the company. And when you own stock in Voyage, you own what we own, and we own a volume of rights to a lot of different projects. And so for a storyteller coming in and owning a piece of this entertainment company, it's a neat way to diversify. So many of you, if you're just focused on a single story, the reality of the market is you could spend all the time and effort on a story and it might not sell or get made. And so diversification is what most producers do, is they invest in a variety of projects and they've got a few irons in the fire. And by owning stock in the company, it's a way for you to spend a lot of time and effort and money on your own story while diversifying by owning the piece of the company in other people's stories. And the rising tide raises all boats. When one of us wins, we all win. And we think that's a really cool concept. And so have I think we have over 450 or 500 investors, including our first raise. So how do you make money with your investment? You make money if and when we sell the company or go public, and or when we introduce dividends or profit sharing, okay, which will hopefully come later. I can't make promises. I'm not allowed to make promises from the SEC, but that's our vision, is to either sell or go public and introduce dividends. And that's how you make money as an investor, is by owning stock. Now, we can't predict, but we think we're a good strategic acquisition target. We think that's probably the more likely scenario for Voyage versus going public. But again, as you grow, you bob and weave and you change your mindset as different opportunities present themselves. But for now, our view is to eventually, let's say 3 to 5 years, sell to a streaming platform or a studio, or a less likely candidate, an agency. So the studio platform is sort of our main, thinking at this point. We think they're the innovators, and they're moving further and further up the content, what I call the content supply chain. We attack the supply chain from the very start. They attack it from the very end, distribution. And we think that there's likely a time when we meet in the middle. There's a story that I've told to some investors who were at the gala that I'll share here, which is when I first started taking strategic meetings, I went out to all the studios and some of the agencies, and a lot of them said, I don't really understand what you're doing, or that's not how it's done. And when I went to Facebook, Apple, Google, Amazon, and Netflix, they all said, oh, that's really interesting. In about 3 years, we're going to start tackling that problem. So it's really cool that you guys are ahead of that curve. So now let's move. So that's, again, sort of a summary of a possible sale target. And let's talk briefly about where your funding goes. Okay, so if you invest, how do we spend that money? Our goal is to grow our community, increase our probability of success, produce more movies, and improve our bottom line through efficiency. And so that leads to spending in marketing and business development, technology, which is where we make investments for efficiency, our bottom line, and then we make micro investments in films and television projects that are in our door that we're bringing to market and endeavoring to get them made. We have some pretty ambitious goals. We're kind of in between what we're defining here as year 1 and year 2. Like I said, we have about 100,000 users. And in our first year, we did accomplish that first goal, which was to produce 2 movies. So we're very proud of that. And then when you make a movie or a show, you indirectly employ literally hundreds and thousands of people. And so one of the things that we like to be champions of as a company is job growth. And we like to share that story with others. Now, as I mentioned, we're very excited to have brought on our new head of originals, Robert Midas. I'll tell you that I've gotten to know Robert for the last year. Not only does he have an incredible track record and is a great producer, but he's also a really kind and a kind man and a family man. We've gotten to know each other. I've spent a little bit of time with his family. Robert most recently ran Further Films, Michael Douglas's company. I think the most exciting sort of track record piece is that he's got a show coming on the air on Netflix that they ordered 2 seasons of. It's a spin-off from the original One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It's called Ratched, and maybe he'll give us a little insider scoop on Ratched. But before we dig in, Robert, let's just make sure your audio is working, and if there's anything you want to say about yourself before we move to your robust ideas.
Hi, good evening, everybody. It's great to be here. It's great to see everybody. I recognize a lot of names, a lot of folks that I'm already working with. And yeah, thank you for that. I've been working with Voyage now for about a year as one of producers. And what I really enjoyed about it is, like I said, it is a disruptor. It's a new and innovative opportunity to find new stories and bring these new stories into the business. I've developed a couple projects so far and had a lot of fun working with everybody and starting to have success. And then Nat offered me the opportunity to come on board as the head of originals. Now, which is really exciting because now I'm getting to see all the projects across the entire platform. You want to go to the next slide? There we go. Okay, so one of my objectives with the company is that I've identified these sort of genre labels with the company. When a producer hears a story or reads a script or reads a book or goes across any idea, the first thing the producer does is thinks, where can I sell this? You know, what movie studio is going to release this kind of movie, or what cable network or broadcast network is going to air this type of series. Always putting the ideas that we hear into buckets, basically, because every studio and every network, every streaming service, they all have their own sort of mandate. They all capturing a certain part of the audience, and therefore they tend to make a certain kind of movie or show. So, in looking at Voyage, one of the things I noticed was that we have a lot of women writers, a lot of female voices, and a lot of times they're true stories, or it could be perhaps fictional. But go ahead.
Hey, so do me a favor, Robert. Just refresh your browser. Your audio is a little crackly, and I want to see if refreshing might make it better. And if you have to log in again, we'll do that, and we'll get you.
Okay, give me 1 second.
I think we're sort of rocking the capacity of this platform with so many attendees. All right, so let's see. Let me see if you're still a presenter. Yep, you're still a presenter. So I think you can, thanks, Richard.
On? Oh, I got to turn my camera on.
Yep.
All right,
All right.
Is that better? Is that better audio?
We'll see.
Okay. So, yeah, I identified that the number of female voices, female writers with female stories within the Voyage development slate. And if you look at the first box,
hey, Robert.
Yeah.
Why don't you, do you have the link for dialing in? And you could mute your computer and then dial in from your phone. Stay on your computer, but mute it and dial in from your phone. And let's try that audio. Because it actually just got worse. And this is important stuff I want to make sure everybody can hear. Do you have that dial-in info, Robert? Oh, I don't. Yeah, I think when you dial in via phone, I think I should be able to promote you to present as well. But let's see. Can you give me an indication when you're successfully phoned in? Like a thumbs up?
I'm dialed in.
All right. But let me see if I can find your new. Go up top here. You're on an 818, right? Sorry, everybody. Thanks for your patience. Hey, Robert, just text me your. Actually, I can find it. Hold on. All right, I found you. I'm gonna make you your phone now. So, Robert, you gotta mute your computer.
Unmuted. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. So yes, and just activate your video camera again, and then.
Yeah.
But
okay,
yeah.
It's coming back on. You can hear me now, right? This is good quality.
Yeah, your audio is fine.
Okay, great. Well, okay, there we go. We're back. Sorry about that, folks. So as I was saying, we've identified genre labels from within the Voyage slate. We, for example, I noticed that we have a lot of really high quality female writers who are telling female-centric stories, sometimes true stories, and they tend to feel like a quote-unquote lifetime movie. And so what we're doing is we're creating a genre label within the Voyage development slate that is developing projects specifically for the Lifetime Network. And we've started applying that across the entire development slate, so that now when producers hear a story or come across an idea, we can identify how we're going to, it gives us a path and a target in our development process so that we can make sure that we're developing a project that a buyer is going to want. So some of these labels that you see on your screen, our projects are going to be funneled into those labels, and the family label, that's sort of like Hallmark movies or Disney Channel projects that are aimed towards co-viewing, parents and children watching together, projects that are comedies or holiday comedies. There's another genre label at the bottom of the screen called Edge. Those are more like action thrillers, more independent style films, something like Pulp Fiction, for example. There's another bucket called Studio, and that is that's still going to be those sort of big ideas, those big theatrical studio projects that will continue to develop.
The point is that,
hey Robert, just mute your computer because now you've got a feedback loop.
Sorry, there we go. But the objective here is that this, and I've already discussed this with our producers, so they're aware of this framework, and they know now that when they hear an idea that comes in from our clients, that we have a path to success. They know that, you know, we're going to be developing something that'll fall within one of these buckets, and then when the project comes out of the incubation phase, we know who we're selling it to. And the objective for Voyage is to really develop packages so that we can get 5 female-driven movies that we walk into Lifetime with, or that we get 5 family projects that we walk into Disney with. This really takes advantage of the strength of our producers, because they know the market. The producers know what the studios and networks are looking for. And so if we can streamline our development process and put our projects through these labels, it'll help grow the visibility of the company. And I know that the buyers, meaning the networks and movie studios, are going to get excited because they know they're going to get high quality, targeted, specific projects from Voyage that they can then distribute on their platforms.
So talk to us a little bit about strategic partnerships and how this informs your actions ahead, like your year ahead. Like what kind of activities are you taking? Yeah.
So that's actually, that's very important, because what now the job that I have working with Nat is we are going to go establish those strategic partnerships. So for example, we're gonna go to Lifetime and we're gonna say, hey, we have 5, 10, a dozen of these projects that we're going to specifically bring to you, and that we're going to produce them and deliver them. And they'll know us as producers, and they'll trust that we're going to bring them good projects, and then they're going to give us a pipeline that we can continue to feed as projects come out of the incubation phase. And another strategic partnership would be for the family slate, making a deal with Hallmark or Disney. There's a number of faith-based projects that we have that we're going to reach out to companies like Affirm and Providence that are distributors that are constantly looking for, you know, good quality material. So that's the key component of this, and that's really on my plate working with Nat, is establishing those strategic partnerships with existing platforms in the business, so that we know that we have distribution that we're constantly feeding with our projects as they come out of the incubation phase.
And then for some of the more indie labels too, what that it starts to inform those strategic partnerships, how to use we have access to 3 or 4 film funds currently, and we're going to be expanding those and making them more specialized to fulfill on some of the aspects of the labels that have more of an indie nature to it, like Edge. Lifetime needs financing. Some of the projects that would fit into the Her label, which is inspirational, female-driven dramas, needs financing. Faith often needs outside financing to get started. A lot of the smaller Faith movies. Edge has horror, so a lot of movies in horror are sub 5 million and can be independently financed. So it drives a lot of these financing and distribution partnerships. And then there are incremental partnerships that lead to that as well. So how do we start satisfying getting a lot of directors on board? Or in our series, what management companies and well, not agencies right now because they fire all the writers have fired their agents, but what management companies do we partner with to bring on showrunners onto a lot of our series? Okay, hey, we're gonna get to Q&A in just a sec, so let's hold the questions, because once we get to it, it'll be like a chapter book and we'll have to scroll too long. So let's leave the questions for a little bit until we get to that point in the presentation. But anything you want to add, Robert, on labels?
No, I mean, this is the framework that we're going to be working from moving forward. And you know, I started this position the 1st of October, and already with the admin team that Nat mentioned earlier, we've been excited because we find that a lot of our projects, they do sort of fit into these funnels, and that gives them a greater chance of success when they hit the market.
Yeah, the producing team and the admin team could not be more excited just how much this alone has brought alignment of purpose all the way through our pipeline system. All right, so let's move on. We're going to jump into investing and what that means. Now, a lot of you, as I mentioned, have stories of your own. And why we chose to raise money from our own family of storytellers is because with the SEC regulation CF, which is called regulation crowdfunding, you're allowed to reach out to investors that normally you're not allowed to reach out to, meaning you don't have to go to venture capital. You can go to the regular guy or the regular woman, and you can and they can make smaller investments than your sort of typical venture capital backed company. So the minimum to invest is only 250, and then we have these incentives to invest, and these incentives directly correlate to your objectives as storytellers. So for example, when you invest $1,000 or more, you get connected to one of our producers. You can share your story together with them. You'll work out for which market and label it's best suited, and then how to develop it effectively and go to market for that label and that market. Okay, so that's free when you invest to own stock in the company at $1,000 or more. $2,000, you get to pitch 2 producers with 2 stories. $10,000, you're going to actually pair up with a producer and you're going to work intimately for several months on a project, prepping it for market. Okay, that's really relevant, especially to aspiring screenwriters. At $25,000, this is really relevant to authors or screenwriters who might not be quite at the level of craft, of professionalism that's required in the market these days. And you need to bring on a professional screenwriter for $25,000 if you invest to own stock. We'll get you a professional screenwriter, execute your screenplay, and bring your project to market for free. When you invest at $100,000 or more, again, to own stock in the company at $100,000 worth of stock, we're going to put you into our production incubator. Now, what does that mean? That means you have like a full committed goal of making a movie or a show, and we're going to bring on a full team to prep that project. That can include bringing on a professional screenwriter to write an outrageously good script, a line producer to do budget and financing plan, a casting director to start doing casting and outreach, director packaging, reaching out to our funding partners, etc. So it's really the full, like, we're going to do everything we can to make a movie together, and you're also going to get an executive producer credit on that movie. Now, that can be your movie, okay? Or it can be one of ours, meaning you can say, you know, I don't have a perfect story yet, or I don't have a story yet, but I like what these guys are up to. I want to own stock, and that would be awesome to be a part of a movie. So I'm going to invest, and I'm going to jump onto one of their projects and help them with that funding, and together we're going to endeavor to make a movie, and again, I'm going to get an executive producer credit. So those top two incentives, the $25,000 and the $100,000, if you're feeling called toward those, and if those are relevant, if you want to dig in deeper, you're welcome to schedule a private call with me. All you need to do is you need to email, it's on screen, but I'll spell it out, ignite@voyagemedia.com. So IGNITE, ignite@voyagemedia.com. Let them know you were on the investing webinar and that you want to schedule a call with me, and we'll get you going, and we'll have a private call, and we'll go into greater detail about that. So some of those projects for which that production incubator might be relevant, if it's not yours. So a live day is a very exciting project that we have in the works. Okay, it's a studio feature. It was developed from a book from one of our clients. It's called A Live Day by Samuel Hill. We already have an A-list director on board in Philip Noyce, the director of Salt, The Giver, and Revenge. And it's being produced alongside Michael Medavoy, Oscar nominated from Black Swan and The Thin Red Line. So he's been around for a long time, probably top 20, high quality, critically acclaimed producers of all time, really a mogul. It's a really exciting project. It's one we're very proud of. Another more recent project is 500 Miles to Nowhere, also based on a book from one of our clients and one of our investors, Fred Eason. It's a Western. It came through our incubator. We've done a lot of work on it over about a year or so, and it is now being produced with Sean Reddick, the Oscar-nominated and the producer of Oscar-winning Get Out and Oscar-winning Black Klansman. So it's also a very exciting project. It's the legend of Bass Reeves, the first African-American sheriff in the West. Very cool story. And we have, this is just a small list of some of the projects on our original slate. We've got Upon a Field of Gold, which is a studio rom-com. That's actually being produced by yours truly, Robert Midas. Give us a one sentence on Upon a Field of Gold.
It's based on the true story of a man who remembers a previous life and a previous love, and then he goes on a journey to see if she is living in this lifetime as well.
We've got Life of Riley, which is a brand new series that's come onto our original slate. Very, very exciting, based on both the book and a life of one of our clients, who's also a psychologist, and it's a really great half-hour comedy. The Urge is one of our small budget horror projects. Long Shot, some of you have probably heard about Long Shot already. It's a sports drama, the first African-American female horse racing jockey to win a major race. It's a true story, really great project. On Fleek is one of our reality television projects. Seal with a Kiss is a family film, also based on a true story and based on a book from one of our clients. The Bone Lady, Robert Midas producing, a studio comedy feature. Deirdre of the Sorrows, a big studio action movie with an A-list writer. So these are just a sampling of some of the projects that, if you invest into that production incubator level, that you could join us on and become an executive producer and help that project along. So how to invest? It's an SEC regulated raise. It's done on an SEC regulated funding platform. There's a ton of information on that platform where you can read about Voyage, you can watch videos, you can explore a lot of details, including the SEC filings. The deadline to invest is November 15th. That is not changeable. That's a date that I filed with the SEC a couple of months ago. So it's coming down to the wire. The website to invest is www.voyagemedia.com. www.wefunder.com/Voyage Media. It's on the bottom of your screen. That's www.wefunder.com/Voyage Media. Again, the minimum to invest is only $250. You go, if you look on screen, you can see on my screen, there's a little thumbnail about what the website looks like. You can see the little green button. It's as simple as clicking that button, filling out some information. You can use credit card, check, or wire, and you can fund and buy stock in the company. And when we close down the offering, you'll get a stock in mid-November. You'll get a stock certificate, and then we keep track of you on the cap table as well. And you actually are an owner of stock in the company. All of the details are available at www.wefunder.com/Voyage Media. So let's jump in. There's been a lot of questions already coming on, so we might have to scroll back and we'll cherry pick some of the ones that feel obvious. A lot of these are hellos. I'm just scrolling back. Will there be a replay? Yeah, we have been, oh, thank heavens, this meeting is being recorded. Yes, we are gonna send it out. I just remembered. I was like, oh no. Which project won the Emmy? That was Valley Uprising. It's you can watch it on Amazon Prime. It's called Valley Uprising. You're in contact with the producers of The Help and Seabiscuit? Yes, absolutely. Both Charlesy as well as Jesse Israel and Regina Lee are producers on our platform. So there's some of the producers. They happen to be in production now and not available, but those are some of the producers on our platform. We have female producers on the platform. Yes, we do. I would estimate probably 20 to 30% of the producers on the platform are female. Michael Baker, it's always 3 to 5 years. Nice to see you, Michael. Glad you're here. Okay, so here's a technical question. Please comment. 200 deals and 100,000 clients. It's not 100,000 clients. It's 100,000 members of the community. So we have a lot of people that are on the platform using free information and free education that we provide. Okay, and then some percentage of those become clients, and then some percentage of those go into the incubator, and then some percentage of those actually go on to getting a deal. So you would be right if it were 100,000 clients. A, we probably wouldn't be raising money, and B, it would be a poor success rate. But those are not the statistics. And welcome, Rebecca. Great discussion, Nat. Thank you, Richard. Nice to see you. What about hybrid buckets? I'm not sure what you mean, Prema, by hybrid buckets. Robert, do you have any inclination as to what that would mean? Maybe if a
I'm sure you're probably maybe their story falls in between two. Like it's a female lead, but yet it has a more edgy sort of indie feel to it. So, but the truth is that you can't really think of it in terms. It could have elements of something else, but it really needs to stick to one or identify with one genre in order to really have the best opportunity to sell in the market. Does that make sense? Does that answer the question?
I would guess that's probably her question, and then I would just add a different view on it, which is that there are some projects that do fit into multiple buckets. So for example, one of the things with 500 Miles to Nowhere is that it's a studio level feature, meaning its budget is high enough that it's going to require a studio to distribute it, but it could be indie financed, at least in part. So it requires its own sort of funding mechanisms. But the real point about it is that we have it on both our studio feature and our series slate, because it could very well be developed as a series if the market wants to move us in that direction. So that's a different answer to the question. It's not in contradiction to what Robert said. It's just a slightly different view.
Yeah.
Leslie, nice to meet you, Robert. Jonathan, yes, we'll send a recording. Good audio now. Gurav, nice to see you. Audio much better. Let's scroll down. Robert, do you see these questions too?
Yeah.
So Bob Johnston, I'm going to let you field this, Robert, and then I'll add, because this will kind of put you on the spot a little bit, which I think is an interesting question. Will you have an in-house distribution entity as well? Your thoughts on that?
You know, that requires a lot of infrastructure, and from a financial perspective, you're better off letting someone else do the work of hiring distribution for you. What we should really be concerned with is the development and production of our projects, and then get them to the market and let the distributors handle that. Really, you're leveraging the existing marketing power of the existing distributors and their pipelines. To have your own in-house distribution, that would require a lot of, quite frankly, a lot of overhead, which, again, you're better off just letting the distributors do that part. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I'll echo that everything Robert said is 100% accurate. And to add to that, there are two aspects where your question actually becomes really relevant. One is in the distribution sales business. So if we're going to be in the indie financing realm, one of the indie financing strategies is to pre-sell distribution abroad. And it's not uncommon to staff with a sales rep to sell distribution abroad. And that is something we could develop in a year or two as we grow as an in-house capability. And then the other just totally different framework that I'll bring to it, which would be for Michael Baker's humor in the 3 to 5 year realm. If and when we grow to a certain scale and we're now in the mergers and acquisition business, and we've developed these labels and we have these brands, then it might make sense to be in the acquisition of a distribution entity and or strategic partnership with a distribution entity that can leverage sort of the bulk of our branded label content. So, but that's a long view game. So again, if you look at this sort of like a linear content supply chain, you know, Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, Facebook, Apple, Google on the other end of the supply chain, and Voyage on this end of the supply chain, they're moving like this and we're moving like that. At some point, we may gobble up some distribution and they may gobble up some production. And at some point, hopefully one of us gobbles the other in a very effective deal where you guys all get rich. So that's just a slightly different frame on that question.
Robert Flynn had a question, wanted more information on the studio label. Those are the big budget projects, what you traditionally consider like a big theatrical release. We have a couple animation projects that fall into that category, but those are projects that we know come with a sort of higher concept, a bigger idea, a bigger budget, and would be something that would fit at a major studio. What we want to do is we want to position all of our projects to have the best chance of success. And so the bigger projects will fit into the studio bucket, and the projects that, you know, we feel like, oh, those would be great television projects or streaming projects, we put into other buckets. But the studio one is still the sort of bigger size one. That's why Matt was saying the Bass Reeves project is a studio project, because it's a Western, it's period, it has big cast. The same with a Live Day. That's a big action, you know, with a big time director, Philip Noyce. So those still exist in that bucket.
Perfect, thank you. It's an interesting question, and Robert, maybe both of us can comment on Vicky Pilatus. So when you are the producers that the distributors trust, does that mean that we, the indie producers who bring the content to you, lose control of the projects? So I want to comment on control. So control, first of all, most movies and shows, it takes a village. And so it takes collaboration, right? Now, control is something that one gets through contractual authority as well as influence, meaning you have something that people want and you have a perspective on it and people know that you're the person to do it, and that creates the control begotten by influence versus contract, and both are available. We call both of them power, if you will. Now, control and influence are sort of more supply and demand dynamics. So to give you an example, so we're indie producers too. It's, you know, you might be the content creator, but then there's a bunch of producers along the way. We're sort of early stage producers, and then we partner. So for example, with a live day, we're partnered with a big producer named Mike Medavoy, and Mike Medavoy's got the big studio relationship. Not that we don't, but he's done a bunch of studio movies. And so we kind of take, by the nature of that supply, demand, and power architecture, to some degree, we take a junior control position, but we would have contractual authority for mutual approval rights. And oftentimes we can carry the storyteller along with us into those mutual approval rights. And then if we're the senior producer, we can also carry the content creator and storyteller along with us into mutual approval rights as well. The path to control and influence is about owning as much stuff as possible and having the best possible project as many people want. So anyway, what would you add to that, Robert, if anything?
No, I mean, you said it perfectly. You know, movie making is a collaborative business and a collaborative art. If there's a project that comes in that we're excited about and there's a producer that's already attached because they've taken it so far or they've brought a piece to it, then absolutely we find a way to work together. And we just try to leverage everybody's complementary strengths. So yeah, absolutely we'd find a way to work together.
Perfect. Let's see. I'm gonna just kind of skip around a little bit and find some projects that find some questions that I think are most relevant for as many people here. Some of the questions that have come in are more specific to a relationship we already have with you, and those feel a little less relevant for everyone in the room. Maria Valenti, what is the price of a stock? That is an interesting thing in the sense that we're not allowed to talk about the company and its stock price in the same presentation by the SEC. So you have to go to the website, and the stock price is listed right there. So there's no, it's an interesting SEC regulation where we can't talk about the company and how awesome it is and simultaneously talk about the share price. But the share price is at www.voyagemedia.com, or excuse me, www.wefunder.com/Voyage Media. Tom Huggins, will the minimal investors be allowed to invest more at a later date? The answer is I don't know. We are a thriving company. We largely fuel our enterprise through cash flow, meaning revenues that we're already generating. We fuel growth when we add investors. We don't have any plans to raise more money, but it wouldn't be uncommon if we chose to do so. We raised about 2.5 years ago. I don't expect that we would be raising again right away. And the timetable of that raise, it does close down on November 15th. So if you can invest more up until that point, and then again, if we open it again in the future, you'll be able to invest more as well. It's just that we don't have any plans to do so as of right now. So I believe, Judy, that answers your question as well. Anna Conrad, this is an interesting question. What is the first step towards becoming an original? So if we go back to that original video that I showed you at the very top of the presentation, step one. Step one is you submit your story. Well, first of all, you apply. If you're not an investor, you apply. You apply to be in the incubator. If you're accepted, then you submit your story. You select a producer to submit your story to, and your producer is going to connect with you for an hour to get really clear with you on which market and now label it's best suited, and then get a real clear path for what's necessary to develop the project to the point where it's marketable. So that's the very first step that every client takes, every storyteller takes, is they apply to the incubator and they do that 1 hour strategic session. So again, some of these are specific to projects that are, you know, working with us as clients, and so I'm going to field those just outside of this webinar. It feels it doesn't feel like the right place to talk like sort of specific customer service questions. Jeff Charlebois, hey Jeff, nice to see you. If you become an exec producer, do you get money when a movie or TV show plays, or are you just a stockholder who gets money through stock? That's a good question. If it's your project, then not only are you going to get your stock, right? And then if the company succeeds, you succeed, and we make money, you make money. But you're also the owner of the project, and that's a separate ownership structure, right? So you own the copyright to the story. If a financer finances that project, the financer has to actually pay you for your rights, right? Meaning they don't own the story, and until they pay you for it, they can't make the movie or show. In addition, if you perform executive producing services to a project or producing services to a project, there are line items in the budgets for producers as well. So in that case, it would need to be one of your projects to earn additional fees. And by the way, Robert, have you met Jeff? You met him at the gala, right?
Hi, Jeff. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, Jeff, I know Robert has some exciting news for you. I don't know if you know it yet, but Robert could not be more excited about having met you. I'll leave it at that. Tyler Stanley, thank you for what you do. I'm an investor and an author. My script writing is a gender-free zone, not happening anywhere now in film. I can write anything, but my passion is having the first film where women are identified as a person, not a gender. Will Voyage include these films? The answer is yes. So not only is that a yes, but it's also proof positive. We actually have a project. It's a sci-fi and it's a gender neutral character, which makes for an interesting sci-fi project. So that's actually something that we're working on currently. And then for everyone else in the room, Voyage takes this stand. We are for storytellers having a real shot to tell their stories on screen. We are market and genre neutral. We don't take a stand on a particular value system. We support you taking your stand. And if there's a viable path for your project and market, we're going to take you along that path and get you into the right place so that you have the highest probability of getting your movie and show sold and made. Okay, but we don't take a political stance. We don't take a religious or non-religious or atheist stance. We choose to stay neutral and rather be in support of people with their stories. That's how the company is structured. So we have a lot of questions about people investing more later. That's exciting. Robert, do you see a question you want to field?
Yeah, Hannah Conrad asked if there are any genres to avoid, and to be honest with you, off the top of my head, I can't really think of anything. I think like Nat said at the top, there's never been a more exciting time to create because there's so many outlets. If you pitch us an idea, I'm pretty confident we can find a place that would program something like that. So bring us your ideas.
So Will Welsh, he has some great questions. Do you have projected budgets with income and expenses itemized? What percentage of Voyage is available to investors in aggregate? So Will, those are great questions. And the good news is that at the bottom of the WeFunder page, if you scroll all the way down, the SEC filings, all of the answers and more are available to you. So I highly recommend you dig into those. It's a little too detailed to get into here, and I want to make sure everybody has the opportunity to dig deeper. Scarlett Doyle if there is a desire to invest, but that desire is strongly related to having an evaluation of a novel. How does this process go forward? That's exactly why we created the funding mechanism that we created, because we want storytellers to get a benefit to their projects when they own stock. So that's why we have those incentive levels that I mentioned. And by all means, use those incentives for your project. That's what they're there for. So don't be shy, meaning, you know, we set it up that way by design. We want you to use those incentives. We want to hear about your stories. Those incentives are listed on the right side of the investing page. Again, that's www.wefunder.com/Voyage Media, and you can click and read them in detail. So that's exactly how that would go. The mechanics of it are when you invest, we'll get a record of how much you've invested and which incentive applies to you. When the funding mechanism closes, November 15th, there'll be a period of time where it takes for WeFunder to move the funds from escrow into our account. That's when we know, okay, we got to start delivering these incentives, and then we reach out to you proactively to get those incentives set up. Here's an interesting question. Did you answer this? Did Robert, Leslie writes in, did you develop the buckets from your expertise or from the demand of Voyage projects?
It's a combination of both. You know, like I said, like as producers, we kind of know what people are looking for. And then when I started looking at the entire slate, I found patterns, you know, what are the kinds of stories that people are bringing to us. And then we were able to kind of, it's hard to explain. It just kind of happened naturally, you know. And then we realized, well, that's probably the best way to provide the best chance of success is to help our clients think. Like if you had attended the Ignite event that we had a few weeks ago, it was a really exciting weekend, and we were able to kind of educate some of the clients that came, you know, how the business works, how they look at your story, how does the business look at what you're bringing them, so then how can you shape it so that it matches what they're looking for. I think that's kind of the biggest theme of that event, and it really helps people look at their story from a different perspective and continue to do good work. So it's kind of a combination of both. But it naturally fits, and we think it's gonna we think it's really gonna lead to success for our projects. Bob Johnson has an interesting question about existing interested territories. That's not an issue at all. In fact, that's something we can absolutely work with.
And then Andrew Ord writes in, so there is a packaging producer aspect to this in the future. Are you looking to represent in-house talent? So it's something we've thought about. So, you know, the way to think about Voyage currently is that we effectively curate, manage, and bring to market projects, individual projects. Now, as we do that in repetition with some clients, the question starts to become, well, this is a talented person. They're establishing themselves in the industry. Maybe they're a screenwriter. Well, you know, we've been lucky, or I don't know if it's luck, but most clients come back to us and do more work with us. But the question remains, like, well, should we establish a management company and rep them as storytellers, not just their stories? And so we've actually been in some dialogue with some management companies about strategically aligning. And then as the owner of the company, I'm always looking at starting an acquisition process through a strategic partnership. So the long game is potentially to move into some form of a merger or establishing that as a division. Like anything, because we're, as Robert said, I don't like using the term myself, but I like it when other people reference it about Voyage. He used the word disruptor. We tend to like things that are different than how everyone else is doing them. So we don't expect that we're going to start a management company that's just like every other management company. We're going to bring a Voyage twist to it. Obviously, the fact that we've got this incredible community to bring into it, and a different working model, it really is a great recipe for something new.
Rasna Prasad asks, to pitch a story, should it already be published? No. If you have a story, if you have an idea in any incarnation, and you're passionate about it, share it with us. That's the most, for me, that's the most fun and creatively rewarding part, is unlocking that potential and finding a path for it. So absolutely, we take all kinds of pitches, treatments, ideas, anything that you think might work. Let us know.
So Julie Stafford, hey Julie, it's great to have you on with us. What are the timelines of moving forward with the developed project after you invest 100,000? The timelines are sort of what I referenced earlier. The funding round closes on November 15th. We can't touch the money until then. Then there's a couple of week process where the escrow moves from WeFunder's escrow account into Voyage's account. As soon as that money hits, meaning the investment is real, that's when we'll initiate the outreach to get the incentives going. So it's basically very soon after November 15th is we would want to be getting to work and being aggressive. Thanks for the question. Let's see. So many great questions. Well, here's an interesting question from Andrew Ord. I love these sort of more business-oriented questions. With the interest in international voices, are you looking to set up teams or offices in other territories to identify talent and IP there? Yes, that has been on our radar. It's a sort of longer-term plan. There's the natural question of like, okay, when you sort of quote unquote tap out this market, where do you grow? How do you grow? And the potential paths for growth are, for example, do we move into different verticals? Meaning, the obvious vertical for us to move into is into the book publishing. And again, we would never do book publishing just like everybody else is doing, but book publishing with a twist, with a movie twist, with a film and TV rights twist to it. But that's a great vertical for us to consider moving into. The other path is not going into different verticals, but going into different territories and opening up incubators and offices that have localized expertise to those communities. We financially modeled that. We have a plan for it. I wouldn't say we're in execution mode on it, but it's certainly in the financial model. Thanks for the question. Bob Johnston, I'm sorry, I can't answer your tax question. I'd be happy to try to offline that for you. I think, let's see. There's a lot of other questions. They're just very specific to individuals and their projects. And again, I think we're going to skip those. And I think we're going to wind down and we're going to let Robert get to his family and honor everybody for being here. Let's see how many people are still here. Wow, still 117. I think we got close to 200 and we're still at 117 an hour and 15 minutes later. I hope this has been informative. I hope that you guys consider joining us, or if you've already joined us, doubling down on your investment. Again, it closes November 15th. We're making great strides as a company. A lot of those updates are available in the updates section of the WeFunder page. I'm going to go ahead and type in the WeFunder page into the chat feature. And then again, I'll put in the email if you're interested in the 25K or 100K investment and you want to do a private Q&A with me. The email for that is also in the chat feature ignite at voyagemedia.com. We're getting a lot of thank yous coming in, and I appreciate everyone being here. I'm so honored to have Robert Midas on the team, and so grateful that you were able to join me this late in the day for this. Everybody have a great night, and thank you.